Welcome back to This Is Live, the Sunday talk show here on the Arise News channel. With me today, I still have Professor David Aworawo, Professor of International Relations and Strategic Studies at the University of Lagos, and Professor Anthony Kila, Professor of Strategy and Development and Institute Director at the Commonwealth Institute of Advanced and Professional Studies, CIAPS. Nigeria's headline inflation rate increased to 27.33%. relative to the September 2023 headline inflation rate, which was 26.72%. Looking at the movement, the October 2023 headline inflation rate showed an increase of 0.61 percentage points when compared to the September 2023 headline inflation rate. However, on a month-on-month basis, the headline inflation rate in October 2023 was 1.73%. which was 0.37% lower than the rate recorded in September 2023. Arise business analyst Bode Oshosame now joins us to give a summary. Okay, Bode Oshosame is not here, but we have Yusuf, who is here with us in our Abuja studio to discuss this subject. Baba Yusuf is joining us. He's a strategist, policy analyst, and the group CEO of the Global Investment and Trade Company, who is going to do a breakdown of those two developments about inflation rate and also Nigeria's borrowing pattern. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Yusuf.
Thank you for having me, Doctor.
Yes,
it's a pleasure
Baba
to
Yusuf.
be here.
Nigeria's headline inflation rate has gone up. We have had guests on this station,
yes,
the Morning Show particularly, Tilewa Adebajo, who provided graphics showing that no, it's not even 27.33%. If care is not taken, we're going to hit 30%, and that Nigeria suffers from stagflation. And the core area is food inflation. Food inflation keeps galloping. Cereals, basic foods, the prices keep increasing. Why is it that the policies are not working? This is the question I ask. Interest rate hike and all of that. Even President Tinubu declared a state of emergency on food insecurity in July. Nothing has changed. Why are the policies failing?
Thank you very much, Dr. Abati, for having me. To add to that, because I think discussing inflation trends without also dimensioning some of the critical economic variables will leave us short-handed to really eyeball these issues. And if you allow me, I took some notes before coming here. Build up to the 2023 elections and then at the wee hours of the inauguration of the new dispensation, what we are hearing today is not much different, but just to refresh our memory, the reality has hit us that we have a debt stock of over $70 trillion. The debt to equity ratio, debt to GDP ratio of over 23%. And then also to add to this mix to speak to the inflation, let us not forget to over 123 million multidimensionally poor citizens of this country. And then when you key it to the food security, Dr. Abati, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina early this year spoke to the issues of food security with regards to our situation. And he said aptly that Africa currently imports about $70 billion worth of food annually that we can actually produce, and that over 280 million Africans go to sleep hungry. To bring it home to Nigeria, as of last quarter of last year, a UN-funded statistics told us that about 25 million Nigerians will be sleeping hungry and will be food insecure as of this time this year. Dr. Abati, these projections were before the build-up to the 2023 elections. Also remembering that IMF told us at the early quarter of last year, 2022, that the growth rate, economic growth rate of Nigeria will be 3.1%. But with a big BUT, it will contract to 2.9 by first quarter of 2024. If we contextualize that with what has happened so far since the emergence of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, removal of fuel subsidy and all whatnot, one will just say we are expecting this and more. And I totally agree that the inflation rate will even go higher. And with regards to the food security, things can also go worse. Very valid question with regards to why our policies are not working. I'm very happy with that question. And I put it aptly as follows. The lack of recognition of the nexus between fiscal policy and fiscal discipline has been the critical issue here. What do I mean? We are not really having lack of policies. One of the first decisions Mr. President made on inauguration day was removal of, fuel subsidy. And further than that, we've had a lot of policy statements. But we've not seen follow-up, commensurate follow-up, or what I call the synergy between fiscal discipline and this fiscal policy. And it is only when that connectivity is established by Mr. President that we'll start seeing results and impacts in a way and manner that will know that there is something new, different from the previous administration. And to contextualize that, what I'm saying is I coined a phrase to say, unless Mr. President, goes beyond the boldness of assertions and inculcate the practicality of discipline and the political will of execution. For example, we don't have fiscal policy with regards to budgeting and budget management. We know the issues are about budget padding and all that. We know the issues about procurement malpractices and all that. And then critical more than any other thing, in the last 6 months, we expected to see pragmatic, quintessential leadership by Mr. President to say, for example, I hereby shed my cost of governance by X%, 10, 15%, for example, at that level, which naturally will cascade, and that is the practicality of discipline and the political will of execution. It will cascade down to the Federal Executive Council and even to the legislature and the state level. And what that does is a catalytic impact on the polity, Dr. Reben, with regards to the policy. So you can do as much policy, monetary policy, fiscal policy, so long as the fiscal discipline element within the framework of governance is lacking in action, but only in mantra, will continue to suffer what I call 1 step forward, 3 steps backwards, because it means we are not facing those critical realities that we are reeling out as numbers, and it will remain like that and get worse unless government start acting properly. And the first is structure and cost of governance. The second is the execution quotient with regards to budgeting and budget planning, procurement malpractices, and all those other issues I highlighted. Unless that is done, we will not be able to go forward. And with regards to the revenue, borrowing, unless we block the leakages and have the fiscal discipline with regards to our cost dispositions, it will remain a mantra, it will remain a rhetoric, and will not see the desired outcome in the short to mid-term. Things can also only get worse. Okay.
Baba Yusuf, I assume that what we're really talking about is proper alignment between monetary policy and fiscal policy, which has been a major problem. But,
absolutely.
Yeah, but you talked about the debt stock of 70 trillion naira. When the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, went before the Joint Senate Committee on Finance to talk about the medium-term expenditure framework and the fiscal strategy paper, he said Nigeria cannot afford to borrow to fund budget deficit for 2024. He said, look, the interest rate in the advanced countries is very high, so the cost of borrowing can go up. And with 98% of revenue in Nigeria being used to fund, to service budget, to service debt, that Nigeria cannot do that. And that we have to look for revenue by investing more in infrastructure. Do you think that in terms of principle is on the right track? And talking about infrastructure, which infrastructure?
Well, in principle, like you said, it seems in the right track, but then the taste of the pudding is in the eating. The issue here is what Honorable Minister is talking is basically mid to long term. And what about the short term? There must be critical steps that will be taken to address this obvious issue of cost of borrowing and all that. And I hear a lot of conversations about revenue. With all due respect, as much as we look at the revenue, we also need to, again, look at blocking those leakages and having the fiscal discipline, with our cost consciousness and dispositions in terms of cost of governance, from top to bottom and across. These are very critical. We can get as much revenue as we can, increase the revenue, increase foreign direct investment. So long as the pocket has a hole in there, Dr. Abati, the revenues will continue leaking away and will not be able to have a sustainable economy. So that being said, yes, but then everything has to be taken from a multidimensional perspective. With regards to the critical infrastructure, that is why we are talking about it from a mid to long-term perspective. But the building blocks have to also be properly, aligned if we want to have sustainability and we want to rein in the benefits of those investments on those critical infrastructures. So the hows and the whens and the mechanics are very important for us going forward in terms of strategy and the pillar setting. So you have a strategy which remains an aspiration, but in activating this, prioritizing the infrastructure, whether it is in terms of power, whether it is in terms of intermodal transportation, or providing the infrastructure for the agri-value chain, etc., we need to prioritize and deal with these things in a way and manner that we will actually know we are doing this seriously. We need to first of all deal with the fundamentals. The issue of insecurity remains an issue. If you want to build infrastructure, whether it is in any part of this country, especially in the north, you have to deal with the issue of insecurity. It is already impacting on our agri-value chain, which is, manifesting in food insecurity. So I think government needs to step back and look at it from a holistic point of view so that we'll be more sure-footed going forward. But like I said, the fundamentals have to be right, for the pillars to stand aright. Cost containment, fiscal discipline with regards to blockage of leakages and attacking corruption head-on will be key to the success going forward. In terms of borrowing, we are hearing on the sidelines, and this goes to the government, potential borrowing of over 257, whether it is trillion or billion. We hope and pray that the communication strategy of this government will be very transparent. We don't want to now hear later on justification with regards to borrowing. So I urge the government to be very cautious and to have peripheral vision with regards to projections before they make assertion. Again, the nexus between the boldness of assertion and the practicality of discipline. Dr. Abaji. Okay,
as we begin to wrap up, the big question, the big elephant in the room. I know you've made some recommendations, but the big elephant in the room is still, what is the way forward to rescue the Nigerian economy? Nuhu Ribadu made it very clear in one statement that the Buhari administration bankrupted Nigeria. President Tinubu has said he inherited liabilities, but he also inherited assets, but he will not give excuses. But what is the way forward? What do you think we need to do with the depreciation of the Naira, with the general business environment, with FDI, and those key issues in Nigeria? Just bullet points as you wrap up.
Well, first of all, the cost of governance has to go down across the arms of government, especially executive and legislature. Secondly, the issue of insecurity needs to be dealt with for every other thing to fall in place and to flow. Like we said again, the budgeting should be practical and the implementation should be transparent. I want to see the disposition and action of Mr. President to be on scale with regards to fight against corruption. If the NSA is talking about being bankrupt and issues, well, we want to see where those monies are and how they are able to recover those monies in the short to long term for us to be able to get back our money and to put them in the right sectors to drive our economy going forward. The fiscal discipline arm or the leg that will support the fiscal policies that is lacking will need to see the political will in terms of dealing with those issues. Because even the performance management system that is put in place by Mr. President may not really be able to deliver the impacts if we are not able to deal with this fiscal discipline issue from the president down the chain of leadership value chain going forward. Otherwise, we will still come back here and talk about how things have gone worse, you know, for Nigeria.
Well, thank you very much, Baba Yusuf, Chief Executive Officer, Global Investment and Trade Company. Thank you for joining us on This Day Live, the Sunday Talk Show.